Oops, there we go. Hello, everyone. This hour on Verbling, the next in my great short stories class, we're going to continue on with our reading of Graham Greene's The Destructors. We're going to go a little further with part 2, try to complete as much of part 3 as we can. It's 4 parts. And then I'll leave the rest to you to read over the weekend, and we'll have a final discussion class because this story is a little longer than the others. So we're going to summarize the story that we've read so far, and then we're going to jump right into the reading. It doesn't get more classic than Graham Greene. Can you really live with yourself knowing you did not read a single page of Graham Greene in 2014? Well, now's your chance to fix it. Well, first, a little bit about me before we get started. I'm John Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. By the way, here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. Tune in to the new words that you're learning. That means use them actively so that I can correct you and give you feedback. And finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. And right now, if you click that link, you'll open a story, and I'm going to give you a screenshot so you can see it. There you go. So when you get the link open, you will see this graphic, and you know that you're in the right place. So in the first class, we basically read part 1, which you can see here. As we went along, I put in a few key questions that we might want to think about on the right side. You can add your own questions and comments too by clicking on a word, right-click, and add comment here. Or you can add definitions by clicking on a word, right-click, and click research. If you don't see a dictionary definition you like, do this. Add cite, colon, and then the name of the dictionary you want. It has to be a .com or there's got to be a URL. So I'm going to put vocabulary.com, which is a dictionary that I think is pretty good. It has everything we need in one place. And then you just click Insert Link, which you can see right there. Okay? So those are 2 ways that you can give me feedback about what you know and what you don't know. Plus, it'll be recorded here in the document. Okay? So add comments or questions and add dictionary definitions of words that are difficult. Okay. In the last class, we completed part 1. Let's go down to the end. We began part 2. And, oh, look at that. We've even got a definition by Mulan. Very good. And I don't know exactly where we stopped, but I think we did most of part 2, actually. So, help me out. Do you remember where we stopped exactly? Maybe it was halfway. I can't remember. Did we get up to this part? It was nearly lunchtime.
Yeah, I think so. I think we have stopped at like knife, and it's here. Yeah, somewhere here.
Here, where I'm highlighting, you mean?
It's either at the start of this page or where you have highlighted.
Okay.
Because I remember after adding the definition, we have finished 1 paragraph, nothing more.
Yeah.
I have added the definition here, so I think we have either read this paragraph, the one that's highlighted, or we haven't. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I remember now. We stopped right at the end of that little dialogue. Okay. So it's always good just to recap before we jump back into the reading. So actually, we stopped right here where he says, "I'm looking for something special." So why don't we just do a quick recap? And for those of you watching, you can come in as well. All right. Uh, Daniel can only watch. Okay. So Mulan and Sylvia, why don't we talk about first the very beginning, part one? What's the story? What's basically the action of the story? And then we'll try to add a little bit of part two. Part two seems to be more description so far. We haven't gotten quite into the action of part two. Okay? But let's do a little recap, especially for the people watching. So Mulan, why don't you start us off? What's happened so
Yes.
far in this story?
I can't say I can't recap everything because I haven't read it start with you guys from the start, but I can recap what I have. I know.
Uh-huh.
It's yeah, the story is about a gang, a group of like not teenagers, I think kids that are starting a band, sorry, a gang that are
Mhm.
starting a gang, and they want to be the most famous gang. They want to be infamous, not famous, infamous, uh,
Infamous.
infamous, sorry, infamous. So they've decided to go and destroy a house for Old Misery House, a guy who they call Old Misery, and the one who's leading the band right now is called T,
The
uh,
band or the gang?
the gang. Okay, so they went there inside the uh, old misery house, and they've started tearing the ground, the walls. They are using saws. They are just destroying the whole home, their whole house. Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good overview, right? And Sylvia, um, he focused more on the action. I want you to focus a little bit more on the character. So there's a dynamic that happened. There's a kind of a change that happened in the power structure of the gang. Do you recall who became
Yes.
the leader and why?
So the leader became T.
T became the leader.
Yes. The
Not the
T
leader
is
became
for
T.
that is for Trevor.
Right?
And there are other three characters.
Mm-hmm.
Blackie, the
Black.
old boss of the gang.
I think Mike is the old boss, but Black,
No, Blackie is another. Then
Black
there
is
is
another one. Right.
the boss of the, and then in the last paragraph or in the beginning of part two, I think there was another Summers.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Is
some
another character.
maybe you're right. I can't remember that one. I remember T, Mike. I think he was the old boss. Blackie is the guy who kind of supports T. There's the old man. I think we said his name was Thomas, if I remember right. But he's the miser. Oh, sorry, Misery. He's the old Misery guy. Misery. And so I'll put those in the chat window. Okay? And what's the? I mentioned that there was a kind of dynamic that happened in the gang. Do you remember what the change was in the power structure from the beginning of the story until now?
So in the beginning of the story, T came from a family that before the war was rich, almost rich. His
Hmm.
father was an architect, and now he is a priest, but convinced that she's better than all the other neighborhoods.
The mother, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they usually speak with a polite language, and Trevor doesn't want it because he wants to be part of this gang, and so he changed also this name. And in the beginning of the story, he's not the boss. He's no one. He came from outside.
Yeah.
And during
So I was just going to say, yeah, they're a bunch of kids. So they just run into this kid in the parking lot somewhere, and naturally he's going to join the gang because they're just a bunch of kids. So they see someone new and, hey, you want to be in our gang? Okay. Right? So now he's part of the gang. So, but he's a nobody. They just met him, and what changed?
Um, he suggests to destroy this old misery,
And
and
what were they doing before? So why is that an
because
interesting suggestion? What were they doing before? What kinds of little activities was this gang doing?
pinch,
What?
they steal pinch, they steal
Pinching.
pinching.
Pinching. What were they doing? Pinching.
Um,
Pinching things.
no, at least they pinch sticks. So
Hmm.
destroy something was really new and amazing.
Yeah. So, in other words, T impressed them so much with his radical idea. Instead of doing little adventures or whatever, little projects. Oh, let's go out and ride the streetcar without paying. Oh, you know, they want to be infamous, as Milan said. So he comes up with this radical idea. Let's destroy the entire house. No one's done anything like it. Even the adults would notice us. They're so impressed that basically, without speaking about it, Trevor, T, becomes the new leader. They just kind of naturally accept him as the new leader. And in part two, we pick up with them inside the house already, and they're breaking it up, and T is sort of the commander, telling people what to do and sort of organizing everything. And I think that's more or less where we left off, right? I think that's it.
Yes.
Oh, the last thing was that Trevor T promises something special. That's where we left off. All right. So Daniel, why don't you start us off? We'll just go around the room from there. Shall we?
Okay. It was nearly lunchtime before Blackie had finished and went in search of tea. Chaos had advanced. The kitchen was assembled of broken glass and china. The dining room was stripped of parquet. The skirting was up. The door had been taken off its
Hinges.
hinges.
By the way, if you're into architecture or construction, this is a great story for you. Look at all these words: skirting, parquet, hinges. These are all parts of the house. Hinges are the little
Yeah,
joints,
metal for doors, no?
the metal
To
connectors.
connector, yes.
Yeah, the joints, the
What's
hinges.
what is the sound of hinge?
Hinges creak.
Creak. Okay.
They creak. You have to grease them up or they will creak.
Mhm.
That's how you know your house is haunted, if your hinges creak. Okay, there you go.
And the destroyers had moved up a floor. Streaks of light came in through the closed shutters where they worked with the seriousness of creators, and destruction after all is a form of creation. A kind of imagination had seen this house as it had now become. Mike said, "I got to go home for dinner." "Who else?" T asked. But all the others, on one excuse or another, had brought provisions with them. They squatted in the ruins of the room and swapped and wanted sandwiches. Half an hour for lunch and they were at work again. By the time Mike returned, they were on the top floor, and by 6 the superficial damage was completed. The doors were all off, all the skirting raised, the furniture pillaged and ripped and smashed. No one could have slept in the house except on a bed of broken plaster. T gave his orders 8 o'clock next morning, and to escape notice They climbed singly over the garden wall.
Wait, they climbed.
Climbed. They climbed singly over the garden wall into the car park. Only Black and T were left. The light had nearly gone, and when they touched a switch, nothing worked. Mike had done his job thoroughly.
Just a question.
Yeah.
That last part where I highlighted here.
Mm.
Others had brought provisions with them.
Yeah, it's they bring his lunch.
They brought Mike's lunch?
No,
His
everybody
lunch?
everybody
Their lunch.
their lunch.
Yeah. They brought their lunch, or their lunches. They brought
Yeah.
their lunches.
Except
But-
Mike.
Except Mike. So what does that say something about Mike? I'm just curious. I have a theory that that's not an accident. Mike's got to go home for dinner. Everyone else making one excuse or another. Excuse to whom?
Mike is the younger boy. Maybe it's afraid.
Maybe he's
About-
afraid. And who was Mike earlier in the story? Don't forget. What was his previous job before he was this secondary character? Who was he?
I don't know. I can't remember. I know he had trouble in his house,
Let's take a quick look.
but
Let's take a quick look in part one, because as far as I remember, where is he?
I read it yesterday, but I can't remember.
Hang on a second. It's a lot of mics up here. Mike was about to answer when Blackie stopped him. A lot of mics up here. Here's the mic up here in the first paragraph, second paragraph. Right? Nor did anyone laugh except Mike, who finding himself without support. Mike seems to be awfully important in the beginning of paragraph 1.
Maybe
Oh,
Mike-
look, here's Mike too. Look up here, first paragraph. No one was surprised except Mike, but Mike, at the age of 9, was surprised by everything.
Mhm.
If you don't shut your mouth, someone once said, you'll get a frog down it. And after that, Mike had kept his teeth clamped. So
Mhm.
Mike is the young one.
It's maybe the pet of the boss.
Maybe. I'm trying to remember who the other leader was.
Blackie.
Blackie was the other leader?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got them mixed up. I thought that Mike was the leader. Right. So Blackie's the young kid who's, like, surprised at everything. He's, like, a little too young. Everyone else is, like, 12, 13, 14, and he's 9. Blackie was the leader. Okay. I got it. So, my question was, everyone else brought their lunch. Does that say something about Mike? I guess it says that he can't make the excuses like other kids. He's the young one. But by the time Mike returned, they were on the top floor, right? Only Blackie and T were left. The light was nearly gone. They touched the light switch. Nothing worked. Mike has done his job thoroughly. What was Mike's job? Do you remember?
No.
Well, what do you think his job was? They touched the light switch. Nothing worked. So Mike's job was to... He's probably younger and a little less strong than the others, right?
Mhm.
So was he breaking the house up with a sledgehammer? Probably
No.
not.
Maybe the saw.
Or maybe the electricity.
Ah, yeah, the wire.
So he's probably cutting the wires in the
Cutting
house.
the wire.
What do you think about the description about how organized they are? What does it
like a
remind you of?
factory?
Like a factory, yeah. Is that ironic in any way? Is that ironic in any way?
Yeah, I think so.
Why?
Because you suppose they are too much younger boys,
Hmm.
young boys, to be so organized,
So organized,
so organized.
right? Especially this line: half an hour for lunch, and they were at work again.
Yeah.
What's this? I should say, what does this? What does this sound like in the adult world? And as you said, you can even reply. Factory? So, if it's a factory, their factory is producing destruction. That's kind of interesting. It's as if, tell me if you agree with me, it's as if the adult world is turned upside down. The adults are kind of doing nothing in the story. The children are organized. They're busy at work. They're focused. So it's kind of like an inverted world that they live in. Anyway, I think it's an interesting point. Blackie says, "Did you find anything special?" T nodded. "Come over here," he said, "and look." Out of both pockets he drew a bundle of pound notes. "Misery's savings," Mike said. Mike ripped out the mattress, but he missed. "What are you going to do, share them?" "We aren't thieves," T said. "Nobody's going to steal anything from this house. I kept these for you and me. A celebration." Who's he talking to here? Oh, he's talking to Blackie, right?
Yeah.
All right. So he finds a big wad of cash, a big bundle of money, and he's just talking with Blackie. Mulan, why don't you take us to the bottom of part 2 here, and let's find out what he does with the money. Mulan, are you there?
Yeah, one second. It's just to organize my tabs because I'm lost. I have a lot of them. Okay. He knelt down on the floor and counted them out. There were 17 in all. We'll burn them. We'll burn them, he said, one by one, and taking it in turns, they held a note upward and lit the top corner, so that the flame burned slowly toward their fingers. The grey ash floated above them and fell on their heads like age. "I'd like to see old Misery's face when we are through," T said. "You hate him a lot?" Blackie asked. "Of course I don't hate him," T said. There'd be no fun if I hated him." The last burning note illuminated his brooding face. "All this hate and love," he said. "It's soft, it's hooey.
It's
There's
hooey.
oh,
A bunch of
it's hooey.
hooey. Yeah.
Yeah, it's soft, it's hooey. There's only things." Blackie and he looked round the room, crowded with unfamiliar shadows of half-things, broken things, former things. "I'll race you home, Blackie," he said. Mm, and then, should I go on?
What about this? "There'd be no fun if I hated him." Why do you think he says that? Not just, I said, why does he not hate him, but actually, why would there be no fun? Why would there be
Ah,
no
yeah,
fun? What do you think he
yeah.
means by that?
Okay, because he want to illustrate to all the others and to all the others members of this gang and to all the others gangs that he's evil, because he's evil, not because he's trying to make a point or to then to
So, so
to
it's not personal. He's
yeah,
just
nothing personal.
he's just generally evil.
Yeah.
Got it. So I guess what you're saying is, if he was doing it, if there was a reason for it, it really wouldn't be effective. There has to be no reason at all. Is that the
Yeah,
idea?
yeah.
Interesting. What do the rest of you think about that theory? Sylvia, Daniels, do you agree with Milan? Does that make sense?
Yet, I think he T is looking for admiration or advertisement on the newspaper.
He wants to get into the papers.
Yeah,
So, so does that mean you agree
it's
or
evil.
disagree with Milan?
It's evil. Yes, I agree.
Okay. So it's not personal. You're saying, but you're saying different things here. Daniel, you're saying that he wants to create spectacle. So,
But they
yeah.
they don't they don't do this destruction.
Uh-huh.
They don't hate him. It's I don't know. Ah,
It's
okay.
difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. I can finish.
The point is to do something spectacular. It's not about old miser. It's just about doing something that everyone can see. Sylvia, if Daniel is right, and Mulan is right as well, if Trevor is not doing it personally, and if Daniel is right that this is just spectacle, um, usually theater and other kinds of spectacle are there for some reason. Kind of gets to the point of art itself. Do you think that Trevor T is an artist?
Uh, I think that he's only a little child and he wants a lot of attention and he wants to become the boss of the gang. And so, that's all.
But so all of this has just become the boss, but couldn't he do something less spectacular if he wanted to be the boss? I mean, he could have said, "Hey, let's steal this money," right?
Yes,
Gesundheit.
but they were in after the first Blitz that was really spectacular, and so they have that image in mind. So he wants to do something really, really big.
Hmm. So you mean he wasn't really part of, he was maybe too young to be in the war, and this is his way of being part of that mass spectacle of war. He wasn't part of it. Well, earlier in the story, one of them said that, well, I forgot who it was. One of them said, "Oh, I could remember hearing the Blitz, when I was young," and then they counted the years, and he would have been an infant at the time. So they're not really part of the war, but they're too young in a way. So you mean it's kind of a way to be part of that bigness that happened?
Yes.
This, okay, interesting. Well, I have a theory as well. So that's a good theory. I also think that, tell me if you agree or not, I have a feeling that for me this is 50% their work. They're organized. They know how to work. And 50% it's an act of creation. And the irony of the story for me is that through destruction they're being creative. That it's necessary to destroy this house because it's the only creative thing they can do. They have no other outlet. There's no creativity, and children need play. So this is some kind of play that children in war can do. So it has a lot of nuance, actually. So I also think that it's kind of a form of art, and that it's meant. I agree with you, Daniel. It's meant to go into the paper. So I have a theory that Trevor, whether he knows it or not, is trying to teach everyone a lesson because theater and art and spectacle are also there for teaching purposes. I think he's trying to teach the adult something, even if he's not conscious of it. It's not. It's there to prove a point. It's there to show everyone something. If it wasn't, he would keep the money, but he's burning the money. I don't know. Maybe so. If he's purely evil, that's also there to show. I mean, you can't just be evil in a vacuum, right? It's got to have something to do with the values of society. So I think he's really making a point about values. my theory anyway. I could be wrong. You can agree, you can disagree. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
He, with the creation was really interesting. I'm agree with that.
What's that?
The
I couldn't
first
hear
part
the first
about
part.
the creation,
Ah, right. I
so
think I think that's the
it's true.
ironic part of the story, that it's only through destruction that they can really be creative. And they're so organized about being creative. I mean, it's not random. It's really deliberate. So they're really trying to create a masterpiece. If it wasn't that way, I think they wouldn't be organized. So that's the clue from the text that tells me that this is really an artistic project because they're so organized. They divide up the task. They're very deliberate. It's not just random craziness.
But what type of creation are they thinking they will create by doing that?
By
By
burning
doing
money, they're showing what they think of the values of the adults that are around,
ah
and okay, they're not a bunch of I mean, they're not making a political statement because they're kids, but on some level, they're trying to say, all you adults who save your money in mattresses, you know, that are living in some other world. That world is gone, and I'm going to show you what this world is like. It's destroyed. It's nothing. And I'm going to show it to you because you don't see it. I think that's what he's trying to say. And it's something like that. I don't know.
yeah yeah.
Just a theory.
I think in general his you're totally yeah, your statement is totally true in general. Yeah, but about this exact line, it because if I hated him, just I think it's different. But in general, your idea is I totally agree with you
What about, well, tell me a little bit about that line, if I hated him. So he says he
because
doesn't hate him. It's not about him.
because like I've said before, it's not about vengeance. Uh,
Yeah,
Vengeance. It's not about vengeance.
that's what I mean. Yeah, not for me either. It's not about this old man. It's about making a statement. Again, I'm not saying he's doing it. Trevor's doing it consciously. He's too young to be really aware of what he's doing, I think. But he's making a statement for all the adults in his world to see. Maybe mostly to his parents. You know, somehow that old man represents all the adult world to them, the one that they're rebelling against. But instead of doing this little petty rebellion where they go and jump on the tram and without paying, he's he's going to do something that will really make an impact. So I'm not trying to say it's about the old man at all. Well, let's keep going. Let's find out what happens. Okay? Let's see if we can get through part 3 today, and then we'll have one more class where we discuss everything, and you'll probably read part 4 on your own. So, what do you think? Sylvia, why don't you take the next part? I think you haven't read yet.
Yes. Next morning, the serious deconstruction started. Two were missing, Mike and another boy, whose parents were off to Southend and Brighton, in spite of the slow warm drops that had begun to fall, and the rumble of tinder in the estuary like the first guns of the old blitz. "We have got to hurry," he said. Summers was restive. "Haven't we done enough?" he said. "We have been given a bob for slot machines. This is like work." "We have hardly started," he said. "Why, there are all the floors left, and the stairs. We haven't taken out a single window. You vote like the others. We are going to destroy this house. There won't be anything left when we have finished." They began again, and the first floor picking up, the top floorboards next to the outer wall, leaving the joist exposed. Then they saw through the joist and related into the holes,
They
as what
retreated. Retreated.
retreated
Yeah,
into
means
the
to go
hole,
back.
as what was left of the floor healed and sank. They had learned, with practice, and the second floor collapsed more easily. By the evening, and all the Exhilaration seized them as they looked
Seized them.
seized
Seized. Yeah.
them as they looked down the great hollow of the house. They ran risks and made mistakes. When they thought of the windows it was too late to rush them. "Courage," I said, and dropped a penny down into the dry rubble-filled well. It cracked and spun among the broken glass. "Why did we start this?" Summers asked with astonishment. He was already on the ground, digging at the rubble, clearing a space along the outer wall.
Why do you think? Why do you think Summer is saying that? Why do you think
He,
Summer asks that? Remember his earlier comment too. This is like work.
he didn't understand anything, I think.
Maybe.
He was only following the others.
Why does Summers ask this? Yeah, so maybe that's another point here, is that part of the reason that T can lead is because everyone else or other people, they don't have a purpose like he has. T seems to be very clear about what he wants and why, and Summers thinks, okay, every day we're just going to go do something and that's it. It doesn't really understand why he's doing it. Could be it. Uh, let me just
What
see
is
here.
Joist?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Let's find out. It's obviously something with construction, but honestly, I don't know. Let's see. In architecture and engineering, a joist is one of the horizontal supporting members that runs between the foundations. Okay,
Ah, okay.
that's it. So I guess there's actually a picture there
Pillar.
too. I guess horizontal. So it's not a pillar though. It's like
Horizontal.
it's a beam.
Mm.
It's a support beam because it's horizontal, not vertical. So it's a pillar, but sideways, not straight up and down.
It's a beam.
All right, Daniel, we're on to you again. So actually, we got to start here with Summers. Why did we start this? No. We're here in taps. Yeah, there we go. Sorry.
Turn on the taps, he said. It's too dark for anyone to see now, and in the morning it won't matter. The water overtook them on the stairs and fell through the floorless rooms. It was then they heard Mike's whistle at the back. Something wrong.
Something's
Something's
wrong.
wrong,
Yeah.
Blackie said. They could hear his urgent breathing as they unlocked the door. "The boogies?" Summer asked. "All misery," Mike said. "He's on his way." He put his head between his knees and retched. "Run out the way," he said with pride. "But why?" Dee said. "He told me." He protested with the fury of the child he had never been. "It isn't fair." "He has down at Southend," Mike said.
He was down.
Sorry. "He was down at Southend," Mike said, "and he was on the train coming back. Said it was too cold and wet." He paused and gazed at the water. "You've had a storm here. Is the roof leaking?" "How long will he be?" "5 minutes. I gave Ma the slip and ran." "We better clear," Summers said. "We've done enough, anyway."
Okay. Again, this Summers guy. So, what's the unexpected thing that happens?
The owner is in his way.
The owner is on his way back.
Yeah.
What kind of character is this kid Summers? Because look at this line again. Or I should say, based on this line.
A coward.
Yeah. Summers is like just I don't know if he's just a coward or if he just doesn't want to do any work. But he keeps trying to quit. So
Lazy
the old
man.
he's lazy. So the old man is on his way. What else was I gonna say? And who was the one who found him? Was it Summers who found him? No. Who was it? Who was running? Was it Mike? Oh, it was Mike. Yeah, Mike found him. So Mike is the 9-year-old, right? The kid who always looks surprised. And
Yes.
this is an interesting line. He was down at South End, and he was on the back. Oh, sorry. No, it's the line before. Old Misery, he's on his way. But why? T said. He told me. He protested with the fury of the child he had never been. It isn't fair! Of the child he had never been. I think that's an important line. I think that Graham Greene is very clever, and he gives you these little hints. He doesn't come out and say things. He just hints, like, a little bit like Hemingway. It's there, but it's under the surface. So what do you think this means? What does it mean?
Who protects Mike? Or what?
Well, who is he protested? The fury.
T.
Who protested?
T protested.
Who's he? Yeah, but who's he? Who's protesting?
T.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. Why? T said.
Why?
He told me, and it sounds like another person speaking after he told me. Class, what do you think? Who do you think is protesting? Class? Class? Two other people here. All of you.
Class,
Class?
help me.
I don't know. Is it Mike?
I think so. I think it's Mike. And if it's Mike, what do you think about this line? He protested with the fury. Fury is like, could be rage or could be passion. Fury is usually anger or rage. He protested with the fury of the child he had never been. What does it mean, the child he had never been?
Because he's usually apathic,
Apathetic?
apathetic child who's afraid of his parents.
Mike is afraid of his parents? You mean, or all the kids are kind of afraid?
No, yeah, but he is like more afraid because he went back home before,
Okay.
and there's also when he was going out to destroy the house.
Mm-hmm.
He was happy because his parents were busy. His mother, I think, was sick, and his father had to do something. I don't know, but he seemed like he was pretty afraid of his parents before.
Yeah, that or
I don't know.
he's just younger and he doesn't have the freedom that the 14-year-olds have, But for me, this line is important because it isn't fair. Like, you would expect a kid to say that about a toy breaking. So it kind of shows that this is really important to him. This project is important. Like, more important than, just as important. So he's acting like a kid, and he normally doesn't act like a kid. It also gives me this idea that he doesn't have a real childhood. It's like a little hint that these kids don't have a chance to be kids in this environment. So for the first time, he's acting like a kid because maybe this is their play and they really want to do it. This is their way of playing, and also maybe that it's something he's really passionate about, And there's not much to be passionate about in this landscape that they're in. I don't know. Something along those lines. It just strikes me as important. Okay, Milan, why don't you continue? Let's find out what happens with the old miser.
Oh no, we haven't. Anybody could do this. This was the shattered, hollowed house with nothing left but the walls. Yet walls could be preserved. Facades were valuable. They could
Facades. Sorry, facades.
facades were valuable. They could build inside again more beautiful than ever, more beautifully than before. This could again be a home, he said angrily. We've got to finish. Don't move. Let me think. There's no time, a boy said. There's got to be a way, T said. We couldn't have got thus far. We've done a lot, Blackie said. No, no, we haven't. Somebody watch the front. We can't do any more. He may come in at the back. Watch the back too. T began to plead. Just give me a minute and I'll fix it. I swear I'll fix it. But this authority had gone with his ambiguity. He was all
Ambiguity.
with his ambiguity. He
Good.
was he was only one of the gang. Please, he said. Please. Summers mimicked him and then suddenly struck home with the fatal name. Run along home, Trevor. T. Trevor T. Trevor. T stood with his back to the rubble like a boxer knocked groggy against the ropes. He had no words as his dreams shook and slid. Then Blackie acted before the gang had time to laugh, pushing Summers backward. "I'll wash the front, T," he said, and cautiously he opened the shutters of the hall. Grey wet common stretched ahead, and the lamps gleamed in the puddles.
There you
Someone,
go. Wait.
yeah,
Hold on.
okay, okay.
This is a crucial moment of the story. They used who called T by his real name. This is important.
Uh, yeah, I've noticed that someone has called him by his real name, but I'm not sure.
It's there. It's there at the beginning of the line. Please, Summers
Mimic.
mimicked him.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Summers mimicked him?
He repeated his word with um, he was ridiculating him.
He was making fun of him.
Making fun of him.
Mhm.
Yeah, repeating his words with a stupid tone or a mimic tone.
Mimicking tone.
Mimicking tone.
Yeah. Summers is making fun of him. He's mimicking him. What kind of character did we decide Summers was?
He was a coward.
Exactly. The coward of the group is mimicking the boss because the boss is lowering himself and pleading with the group. You know, don't quit, I'll fix it. All right, please. And someone goes, please, run along home, Trevor, like, you idiot. So suddenly Summers, the coward, is trying to convince the group that this is pointless and Trevor's just being, T is just being like a little jerk. But
Okay.
and does T lose his position as leader?
No, because Blackie still admitted him and still admired him.
Blackie saves him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He does. Blackie's a former leader, and he saves T because T looks like a boxer who's been knocked out, right? T is with his back to the rubble, like a boxer knocked groggy against the ropes. Groggy, everyone?
Yeah.
What's groggy? Do you know?
Yeah.
I'll put a definition there.
It's like it's sleepy or
Yeah. If you get hit in the head, you're acting
out
like
of
you're
your
sleepy.
mind.
Yeah.
What
Groggy.
about the rubble?
The rubble is the broken down pieces of the house. The rubble. Big stones that are broken up is the rubble of the house. So he's standing with his back to the pieces of the house, the things that he's created, this destruction, and he looks like he's been knocked out. In fact, it's Summers who's taken away his authority that's making him look like that. But Blackie saves him because he still admires him, as you said. And how does Blackie save him?
He's gonna watch his back. He called on him and told him, "I'll watch the front, T."
Right.
In this exact line. Yeah. And then he opened the shutters of the hall.
Well, there's something very specific here. What does Summers call T, and what does Blackie call T?
Summer called T with his full name,
Right.
Trevor, while Blackie still admired him, and he called him with his leadership name, which is
Right.
T.
So, in other words, for just a moment, everyone kind of questions his authority because suddenly the coward of the group calls him by his real name, his upper-crusted, upper-class name, Trevor. Hello, Trevor, old man. But Blackie redeems him and calls him T, his gang name. And so I think the power switches back and he's the leader again. I'll watch the front door. So they're going to go forward with it even though the old miser is on his way. What do you think is going to happen next when the old miser arrives at the house? What do you
They
think is
can
going to
escape.
happen? What's that?
I think they can escape before he make it to the house.
Okay, so they've got some choices. They might run away. Any other ideas? If they don't run away, what do you think that they would do? Well, class, all of you. If they don't run away, they can probably escape if they go now. But what if they don't run away? What choices do they have?
To fight.
To fight!
No, I don't
We're
know.
gonna fight! So maybe it's gonna be like a shootout between them and the tops.
Shot
knows?
his gun. Their guns.
Yeah. But they don't have guns. They just have
Yeah.
rubble. They just have stones. So maybe they're
Can we
gonna throw
watch?
some. They're gonna what? Say again?
Watch, only watch.
Okay, that's another option. They could kind of hide and see what the reaction is. So we got three options there: run away, fight, and just stand by and watch. Three possibilities. We got just a few minutes, so maybe we have time to read one more section here. So Sylvia, why don't you take this? Let me just see how far we have until the end of part 3. We're not going to get to the end of part 3 today, but Sylvia, why don't you take the next section to the end of the page?
I'll watch the front, he said, and unconsciously he opened the shutters of the hall. The grey, wet common stretched ahead, and the lamps gleamed in the puddles. Someone's coming, T. No, it's not him. What's your plan, T? Hears me whistle. He's got to count 10 and start to shout. Shout what? Oh, help, anything. You hear Mike, Blackie said. He was the leader again. He took a quick look between the shutters. He's coming, T. Quick, Mike, Tulu. Stay here, Blackie. All of you, till I heal. Where are you going, T?
Till I yell.
Yell.
Yeah, what
Where
is
are you-
yell? What is yell?
Shoot.
Shout, right, shout.
Where are you going, T? Don't worry, I'll see to this. I said I would, didn't I? Oh, old Misery came limping off the common. He had mud on his shoes, and he stopped to scrape them on the pavement's edge. He didn't want to soil his house, which stood jagged and dark between the bomb sites, saved not narrowly, as he believed, from the construction. Even the fine light had been left unbroken by the bomb's blast. Somewhere somebody whistled. Old Misery looked sharply round. He didn't trust whistlers. A child was shouting. It seemed to come from his own garden. Then a boy ran into the road from the car park. "Mr. Thomas," he called. "Mr. Thomas." "What is now? It's... I'm terribly sorry, Mr. Thomas. One of us got taken short, and we thought you wouldn't mind, and now we can get out." "Why do you mean by... boy?"
What do you mean, boy? Yeah?
He's got stuck in your loo. He'd not business. Haven't I seen you before? You showed me your house. So I did. So I did. That doesn't give you the right to. Do hurry, Mr. Thomas. He'll suffocate. Nonsense. We can't suffocate. Wait till I put my bag in. I'll carry your bag. Oh no, you don't. I carry my own. This way, Mr. Thomas. I can get in the garden that way. I've got to go through the house. But you can get the garden this way, Mr. Thomas. We often do. You often do. He followed the boy with a scandalized fascination. When? Right now. Do you see the walls low? I'm not going to climb walls into my own gardens. It's absurd.
What's the plan that's been hatched? If you notice, the story changes point of view. We're kind of seeing the world now through the old miser's point of view. And he's kind of experiencing the house from the outside, and we're experiencing it with him, as if we don't know what's happening inside the house. So, does the old miser know what's happening inside the house right now?
No,
No.
no.
What does he think's going on?
Uh, he doesn't. He thought that the boys are curious and they want to look inside the house.
He thinks that they want to look inside the house? Why do you say that? Remember the thing about the loo. What's the loo? L-O-O.
The
I
bathroom.
don't know.
The bathroom. The
They
bathroom.
want to go to the bathroom. Okay.
Right. Is the loo inside the house or outside the house?
Outside the house.
Yeah, it's in the backyard. So there's no plumbing or something like that, or the plumbing isn't working. So he's got to go outside to do his business. And what's the plan? What do the kids try to get him to try to trick him into thinking?
They don't want that he enter into the house.
That's true, but how do they trick him? Is that part clear? What do they say is happening to get him not to go into the house? What do they want to show him? Uh-oh. Help her out, class. What do they want to show him?
They're they're going to take him to the loo because there's, as far as they've written, there's a boy who's stuck inside the loo.
Right, he can't get out.
Yeah.
So earlier here it says, where was it? One of us got taken short. I don't know what that means, but I guess it means that it's a weird expression. But remember, this is from like the 1940s, so that language was a little different. I suppose it means that someone had to use the bathroom, didn't have time to go anywhere, ran into his loo. Or at least that's what they're pretending. Well, listen, I want you to read the rest of the story over the weekend. I'll try my best to put in a few comprehension questions to get you to think about specific points, okay? I'll try to do that later today. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. But read the rest of it, and on next Tuesday we're going to discuss, we're not going to read, we'll read little passages, but we're going to discuss the story and what you think of the ending. I'm going to start the business class now, so stick around for that in 30 seconds, but read the rest of part 3 and the final part 4 for next Tuesday, okay? Our last class on Graham Greene's The Destructors. Deal? Are we cool?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See you soon. Bye
See
for now,
you.
everyone.
Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.